Who has the power in a relationship? Is it the man or the woman? Now, I would say that it shifts over the course of a relationship. I think in dating and the early stages of a relationship, the power is definitely with the woman. No question. But at a certain point, it shifts. I would say after early marriage, and particularly after children, the power then shifts towards the man. But that doesn't last, because as you get towards later marriage, the power definitely shifts back towards the woman. So why do I say this? Well, this is a generalization, of course. I'm not taking into account individual circumstances. This is all based on the idea that whoever needs the other person the least has the power. So why do I say that women have the power in the early stages of a relationship, especially in the dating phase? Well, think about it. Most dating is taking place with old teenagers and people in their 20s. And for women, their 20s and late teens, that's their time to shine. That's when they're at their peak fertility. That's when they're at their most beautiful. They've never been more in demand in the dating market than at that age, because all men are looking to date young, beautiful women. And of course, numerous studies have shown that appearances is like men's #1 factor when looking for a woman. And so she has options in the dating market. She's highly in demand, so she can go on Tinder and get 300 matches in a day, whereas you might only get 5 matches in a month. She's in demand, but you are highly replaceable. For every decently attractive woman, there are hundreds of guys waiting in the wings, ready to swoop in and take your position as her boyfriend. She may even keep orbiters around, backup boyfriends, in case things don't go well with you. She's got these mental escape plans. I can always date Richard, or John's always liked me, or maybe I'll check out what's going on with Mark. She's got these options. She's a girl in her 20s. That's just the reality of the dating market. And she doesn't even need to go to another boyfriend. If she decides, I just want to break up with this boring guy and just sleep around for a while, just have some fun, she absolutely has that power. There are plenty of guys who will facilitate that option for her. And so for a, dark, low-quality woman who is keenly aware of the fact that you need her more than she needs you, you're going to get a bit of attitude potentially from her, because she's not afraid to remind you in any argument or miscommunication or disagreement in your relationship that you're replaceable where she isn't. I had a story like this, the story of Julia. There's this girl from my past who totally humiliated me, and I'm going to release a video about it once I reach 2,500 supporters on Patreon. Check out my Patreon to see how close I am to that goal. But I'm sure I'm not alone there. I think a lot of guys will have experienced a story akin to that. A woman who's not afraid to throw her weight around. She's aware of how many options she has in the wider dating market, and that dynamic bleeds into her relationship. And obviously, this isn't a nuanced take. This doesn't take into account individual circumstances and personalities. I'm just talking general trends here of the power shifting to the person who needs the other person the least. And that's why women have that power in the early stages, but it does not last. There is a period where I think men have a lot more power. And let's talk about that. It's the time just after marriage, just after that solid commitment, and especially after a woman has children. You see, a woman's desirability in the dating market is not absolute. It's highly dependent on her youth and her beauty and men responding to her fertility cues. But after a woman has gotten married and she's made that commitment, in a sense, she's already played her hand, and especially after she's had children, her body has changed massively. And any decently self-aware woman is going to know that she's not going to be able to command the same level of attention on the dating market as she used to. Back when she was 25 and young and sexy, guys would be competing with each other to try and buy her drinks. But now that she's a lot older and she's lost her looks and she's already had some other guys' children, there's no way she's going to be able to get that kind of attention. The man, on the other hand, he's in a different position, because while he might have been sort of, the bottom of the totem pole or towards the middle when he was in his 20s, as he's gotten older, everything about his desirability has increased, He's gotten wiser, he's gotten wealthier, he's gotten more status, She's in decline, but he's just reaching his peak now. Suddenly, she is really grateful to be with him. She's thinking, I'm so glad that I locked him down into this committed relationship back when I was young and beautiful. I'm so glad I have this commitment, because I'm dependent on him for his companionship, for him to be a father, for him to be a provider. This is wonderful, Like, I've got 2 small, infants under 5 years old. There's no way I could raise them and provide for them on my own. I'm so dependent on him. I haven't worked in 4 years. Oh my gosh, this guy I really, really need. And so you see the power shifts because she now needs him more. And some really toxic, awful, abusive men will take advantage of this. I know of a story in my personal life from this woman who said that she was treated like a princess by this guy, and she just thought, oh, this is a fairy tale. I'm so lucky to find a guy like this. He treated her so well up until the point when they got married and had children, and then suddenly his true nature was revealed. It turns out he was just buttering her up with an act, but then once he had her and she was locked into the relationship, he became intensely abusive, physically beating her. It's a really horrible, dark story. And so there's a lesson there. My female audience members, if you're dating a guy who seems too good to be true, he's really charming and just buttering you up, that's a red flag. Be extremely cautious around a guy like that. It could be that it's just an act he's putting on. This is why I tell people in this audience, don't treat women better than they deserve. Treat them exactly as well as they deserve to be treated. If that describes you, subscribe to this channel, join this community, and if you've already subscribed, hit the like button. Now, of course, it can happen in the exact opposite with the genders. There can be women who basically just use men for their sperm, They don't really want a husband, they don't really want a partner, they just want to have children. And then once she's had his children, she's gotten what she wants out of him, she sees no use to him, and she dumps him. And that's a ridiculous choice. It's terrible priorities. Obviously, the children are going to suffer, he's going to suffer, she's going to suffer. It's just awful. And I have a video on my Patreon page where I talk about how to make sure you maintain attraction from your partner after you have children with her, because something in the woman's brain completely changes, and men need to be aware of that, and they need to be able to see it coming. But a woman who does dump the father of her children should be aware that the dating market has completely changed. Men aren't looking largely for women who've already been married. They're certainly not looking for women who've already had children. So there's no way that you're going to have the same draw in the dating market that you used to. This is why my advice to women is to use your best years very, very wisely. Don't be cocky. Don't be stupid. Don't just focus on having fun. You're only going to be young and beautiful for a short period in your life. You need to leverage that desirability in the dating market to find yourself a good, decent man, somebody who's going to treat you well for the rest of your life. Your happiness depends upon it. The happiness of your future children depends upon it, because the power that you had in the relationships when you were young and beautiful, that's not necessarily going to last. But of course, men don't get too cocky, because yes, there's a period where you might have the power in the relationship, but that also doesn't last. You see, the power that you have as a mid-30s guy is that you're still, a hot commodity in the dating market. You've got the status, you've got the experience. Women are going to want to date you because you're at your peak. And, a woman that you're dating who still wants a partner, she's going to be keen to hold on to you. But if you leave it too long, and this is quite common, once a woman gets into her 40s plus, she might come to the decision that she's really not interested in men anymore. She doesn't even want to have a relationship. And so what does she need you for? She's set herself up. I'm going to be an independent feminist woman, and I'm going to reclaim my power by not needing any man. And so she breaks up with you, not so that she can find a replacement. She doesn't want a replacement. What she just wants is your money, and she wants to be free of you. And then suddenly you discover that you don't have all the money and the assets that you thought that you did. You just have 1/3 of it. If you're lucky, 1/3 goes to you, 1/3 goes to her, and 1/3 goes to the lawyers, right? And of course, you don't have access to your children. You thought that these were your kids and that you'd always be there for them. That's what you promised them, and you took care of them. But now suddenly, as a man, you discover that you have rights to visit them. That's what you have. And it's often dictated by the mother as to what kind of rights you have and what the limitations of your visits are. Honestly, the child custody decisions in court cases across the West are just disgraceful. They're so horribly biased against men. I know in my country, in Australia, I've actually looked at it, and things are improving. Things are getting better, but they still have a long way to go. And in some Western countries, it's really disgraceful. They automatically give the children to the woman. And be aware, I know it's a dark thing to think about, but a woman who wants to hurt you, a dark-minded woman, she's not above using your children against you. That is power that she has over you. It seems strange, almost counterintuitive to say this, but the power to destroy is still a power. And so a woman who really wants to ruin your life, she can say that you hit her, even if you didn't. She can say that you hit the children. She can say that you inappropriately touched the children. And the legal system oftentimes is going to err on the side of caution and rule against men to protect against that danger. Do you see how powerless you are in this situation? You know, you wanted to work things out. You wanted to seek couples therapy. You wanted to share custody. Doesn't matter. She's like a terrorist. She's got the nuclear option. That's her power. And you've got to keep her happy. Otherwise, she's going to blow up your life. It's just another reason why I don't think that any man should contemplate even being in a relationship unless they're confident of the character of the girl that they're dating. Unless she's been thoroughly vetted and they've been dating for a number of years and he's confident that she's a high quality woman, because the risk is just too great. Honestly, a toxic woman can just ruin your life, and it's not worth the risk. A good high quality woman can improve your life so much, immeasurably make you happy, but the opposite's true. A terrible woman can destroy your life, and it's not worth continuing down a path if you think that there's the probability that your relationship's going to turn toxic, or that the woman's going to become manipulative or abusive. She's going to be one of these terrorist women. If you're in a relationship with a woman and you're worried that it's going down that path and you need confirmation, send me a question, send me your story on Hey Hero, and I'll send you a personalized video in response. And I'll tell you, yes, there's something to be concerned about here, or no, it doesn't sound like you've got anything to worry about. This video got pretty dark towards the end, and I understand that it's not a pleasant thing to contemplate here. It's not even fun to think of relationships in terms of power, like, or who has the power, who needs the other person the least. And honestly, you should be able to rise above that paradigm. A high-quality individual dating another high-quality individual, they become a team. They go through the pair bonding process, and they're happy to see each other succeed. They're happy to support each other. That's a wonderful thing. But, you know, I always say, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. You need to be aware of the worst-case scenario so that you don't accidentally fall into this trap. And so that's the way I see it. Women, they have the power at the beginning of a relationship, and when you're dating, then the power shifts towards the men, and then ultimately the power shifts back towards the woman. This is a channel where I talk about the theory of, you know, having relationships, dating women, interacting with women a lot. But it is 100% possible to go too hard on the theory and not actually have enough practice. And so where is the right balance between real-world experience and a cognitive understanding of this stuff? I dedicate an entire video to it. If you want to see that, then check it out. It's on my Patreon page. My Patreon's just $5 a month. You get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive content. I'd love to see you over there.